Hi, YouTube. It's me, Novarius. How's everyone doing? I, for one, have had a wonderful time doing some more fantasy thoughts, and today I'd like to talk to you about monsters. Now, specifically monsters within my own setting. But first, I want to tackle monsters like more generally, and when and where to put them within your setting. You need to really think this one through because monsters are creatures that are generally speaking just evil. They are, if you have a monster, usually you just want it dead because it kills people. And one of the big problems with that um, is that they just don't make sense to have for long periods of time unless you have a specific story element which makes them come back. Because I don't know if you know this, but people generally speaking like living, and when something keeps killing them, they will make sure to kill it and like push it back. Uh, to me, it doesn't make much sense that a creature as hostile as, let's say, like goblins or kobolds, like just a constant nuisance and enemy, would be allowed to live like even close to civilization. And you can also assume that depending on the kind of setting, that civilization would have pushed them back way far. Like it would be um, like a priority, right? Because they keep killing like your people, but also your food stores. They plunder. They're just a constant hazard, and people will deal with hazards. That is the first thing you need to think about when you're talking monsters. Now, I've been doing a lot of thoughts myself. Title Fancy Thoughts, and I was wondering how can I put them within my world, and this might inspire you to do something similar or give you other ideas, and make you progress your own thoughts, morph mine into yours, as I like to say. Um, I have this amalgamation within my world, or rather, it used to be within my world, and it waged war on this massive empire that controlled most of the world and was still expanding. And this amalgamation created these monsters under his own command. But I need to put command in, like kind of between two quotes. This amalgamation has like a god complex. We won't go too deeply into it, but it tries to um, push out anything that does not fall under his idea of design, right? What is his perfect world? That's what he's trying to make. And he creates all these different kinds of monsters, which he can semi-control. But eventually, he dies, and like that all these monsters now think on their own, and their thought process is fairly animalistic in nature, generally speaking. There are some more intelligent monsters, but today we're going to tackle one specific monster, and that is the infester. Now, something I do want to say that is common within my setting. Oh, another thing I need to mention as well. I've actually made a little bit of a story, put it in a Google Doc, and then it will be in the link below this video. If you don't want to get spoiled, because like I'm going to talk about the monster within that story. If you don't want to get spoiled, read it first and then come back to this video. That said, if you don't like reading and just want to find out what this monster is all about, stick around. Anyway, I'm going to bring up a window now. I'll wait one more second. And there you go. That's all you get. Here we go. Monsters of Ares. And today we tackled the infester, but I've also written down a couple more, which we'll eventually get to. For now, though, let's focus on this one. But first, all these monsters have one thing in common. They were designed, and I was thinking of what would be a really cool like design element. Oh, I actually forgot that design element within my story. I just realized, which kind of makes me sad, because I could have played around with it a little bit more. That said, it's not all lost. It's fine. Um, as you can see here, I'm just going to read it. General biological advantage, between quotes, because is it an advantage? It's more a situational advantage because they are made within a very cold environment. They are built around that idea. They also the amalgamation dang, made sure that they can survive in that. And how do they do it? Well, instead of veins making like dispersing all these nutrients, they have this liquid vapor that is produced and travels through cells, delivering nutrients, oxygen, etc. So it's just at the center you have all the organs, and they just like expel this liquid slash vapor. Also, that was my doggo. His cute little taps always always warm my heart. Anyway, so what happens is it ends up coating the skin with slime, which in turn help with insulation against the cold. That is the big thing. It's like this slime builds up and creates a nice little layer around them against the cold, and it is also the main reason why they don't like the sunlight, because they warm up very quickly. It keeps in heat very, very well. So that is one of the main reasons why they don't like the sunlight, but they won't die in it. It's not going to be like your typical fancy vampire where they're in the sun and suddenly they burn up because magic. I don't like that idea, by the way. I don't mind weaknesses, but just like saying, yeah, you just do this and they die. Like, I don't know. It's not the point. The point is, this continues on, this mechanic, this slime coating. Like, there's a couple more things going on with it. Won't go into it now, but there are like monsters that use it specifically. They might consume something poisonous, which makes the coating as well poisonous, but only these monsters can do it. That sort of thing. It's actually really great. The first monster we wanna talk about is the infester, and this is what the story involves, right? It's about these things attacking a settlement, and as you can see here, they are parasitic. They hijack a host's nerve system and transform them into a zombie. Now I put zombie between quotes because it's not really a zombie because they're still alive, but they're fairly mindless, much more primitive. They can still think a little bit on their own, but they definitely can't do like more elegant tasks, such as, like, I don't know, sew a quilt. Stuff like that. They wouldn't be able to do that, but they might realize, like, this is sharp, I can use this as a weapon. It's not like they're super powered because they're infested. No, they're just very resilient. They don't mind like losing an arm. That arm will get like repaired by the infested, which, as you can see if you continue reading, I'll just read on. Host must survive. Amphibious in design, can swim and run on land. That is the creature itself. And then it has 4 barbed tentacles, very hooked claws, also webbing between the fingers, allows it to swim a little faster. It has a fine head that expands after burrowing inside the host. So that's what I was getting at. They latch on, like their tentacles actually like wrap around their prey, and the mouth is on the other side, so it just digs in, like just bites away. And because it's such a fine head, very worm-like, they can really dig in. It has like all these barbs to keep it attached. So even if it just jumps you, it's almost impossible to get rid of it, because it just, all these claws and barbs are already inside you. And then it just digs in, and once it's in, it's almost impossible to get it out, because it just it burrs itself, and then it expands its head again. Eesh, right? So that happens, and then that thing starts taking over the body. Now, I found this to be a very, very like cool monster design. It's not quite zombie. It's more parasite. It also reminds me a lot of the Flood from Halo, if you don't know. It's quite similar, but not instantaneous, and that is something that is very apparent in my world that I want to keep. Not only are transformations permanent, it's not like a werewolf that transforms in and out. Like, not only is it like never is it always going to be permanent, so never like the werewolf. I also like things to take time. It takes time for these things to like infect that person, to take over the nervous system, to like change some of the organs to their desire. Like they make sure that it can survive better. Like the same enzymes that it uses, it will send throughout the body. And I'm not a biology expert, as you can quite tell, but the idea is there, and this creature will do anything it can to keep the host alive, and the host will start uh, like losing control. Don't It will lose personal thought, and it will not be able to be reversed once it gets to that stage. The best thing you can probably do is use heat against it, because we've already determined that these things do not have heat, or rather can't stand the heat. They burn up quite quickly. But even then, you would still be left with this gashing wound, that because it it will just like ruin whatever limb it's attached to. And if it's on your stomach, like forget it, right? That just you'll just bleed out because the wounds are also internal. But the thing that's preventing them from bleeding on is the thing itself. So like it is keeping the host alive. At first it hurts like a motherfucker, right? Sorry, language, my bad. But after that, um, it's it kind of like it makes sure that it survives, and it actually will help the host survive. So I made a little story where these things break out against a colony, and I found it quite fun to just write a little bit, to give some meat to these fantasy thoughts, because that's something that was lacking before. Um, but yeah, I think that's a solid little video. Feel free to comment, tell me what you thought. If you liked the story, please feel free to tell me as well. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.